Hi everybody, thanks for joining our webinar today, which is on shaping customer journeys in the digital era. I thank you for taking time off from your busy schedules and making yourself available. A little bit about myself, your presenter for the day. I'm a facilitator and student of customer experience, marketing, design thinking, innovation and digital strategy. I also write often in People Matters, CXO Today, Customer Think, Your Story, apart from my company blog, sharing my views and thoughts on these topics. I also teach, so that's a little bit about me. As a company, Innovators Marketers Touchpoint helps our clients understand their buyers. We apply design thinking to help companies enhance the customer experience and the employee experience. We help companies build a customer-centric organization and help them in revisiting their digital strategy. So in today's webinar, we would be primarily discussing about the relevance of mapping customer journeys. What is and what is not a customer journey, and how do you get started? And once you have, what do you do? So let me begin with the relevance of mapping customer journeys in today's date. Today businesses typically thought the competitors, other businesses are that they are with whom they are competing with. But today it's actually the customers, their own customers. A customer has a very short attention span. In fact, less than that of a goldfish is that we are talking about. So no longer can you slap a label on a product and expect it to fly off the shelves. Your customers want to know what is there in the product, what is it that it is made up of, what are the values that guided the production process, and so on. So if your brand is not transparent, you can bet that they will start looking for information from other sources, and for all you know, they might come by that competitor of yours and start buying from them. They also demand connectivity 24/7 across the different channels that they are comfortable with. We increasingly see the channel fatigue. And as we talk about moving to digital, we have a smartphone whose battery drains off pretty fast. Plus, there's a lot of push marketing techniques which marketers apply today with marketing automation platforms, social media. The customer often uninstalls the communication or unsubscribes from the communication that mode that you're trying to connect with them. So it's very important that we see of different applications that you're building to connect with them to make the most of it. We're also seeing that today brand is increasingly measured by what the customers say. They no longer shy from sharing their opinion about you. So at the end of the day, your growth depends on what they have to say about us. So let's try and see what does the customer view our organization as. Basically, they see employees. And the minute we talk about employees, what they also see is the silos in which the employees work with. As a brand, as a customer, they see your brand only as a single entity. They don't care that your website is being handled by marketing, your customer care is being handled by some other department, your installation has been outsourced to some other company, whether you're meeting your sales figures or not. At the end of the day, what matters for them is the uniform experience that they can experience across every single entity or every single department, because for them you are a single entity and not different departments or different silos. So these silos in your organization are driving your customers away from your brand. So today A customer defines their own journey. So however you might claim that you are a customer centric organization, they define their own journey. And the only way you can try and understand your customer is by empathizing with them, by walking in their footsteps. So in the past, we had the traditional sales and marketing funnel. Frankly speaking, it doesn't exist anymore. It's passé. So that's why basically we no more have this awareness, interest, decision, action model that can work. It's all about the experience, the end-to-end experience, right from the time they become aware that they need a product to the time they try and buy, and then they start owning it and then start recommending it across, and the interactions that they have with the brand across the different physical and the digital touch points. So with this, we have kind of tried to understand why is it becoming increasingly relevant to start looking at customer journeys. And before we move on into the next section, let's have a quick survey. A poll to just see our understanding. So yes, the question is up there. Most customer interactions, be it B2B or B2C, are multi-channel. So great. I have all the participants whoever opted for the poll have got it right. Yes, the answer is very much true that B2B or B2C today we are talking about a multi-channel experience. So it doesn't matter whether you're a B2B or a B2C organization. You will have to look at customer journey maps. Your touch points and the moments of truth would be different, but it's an exercise that no one can escape from. So what is and what is not a customer journey is what is it that we are trying to understand today. So a customer journey map is basically a visualization of the customer based on their interactions that they have with our brand. And it is representative of where the customer touches our brand, where the brand touches the customer based on some of the interactions that we give them, the good interactions that they would have with us, that they would recollect and remember, hopefully. And why is the customer seeking contact with the brand as such? So basically the customer journey map helps us, gives a lot of answers in a visual way that helps us understand their experience better, and it helps the business takes better decisions. So there are different kinds of customer journey maps. So we have something called current state as is. So this map represents the current reality, the way you are. A day in life is basically if you try and put your customer's life for the 24-hour period. Of course, we need some time for sleeping, traveling, but as a brand, we try to constantly keep engaging with our customers depending on what our product is all about. It helps us give us opportunities to identify for innovation. Future state maps are more of aspirational maps. The future state, 5 years down the line, this is where our brand wants to be, and what is it that we could do for our customers to give that wow experience which our competitors can't give. And blueprint is an advanced customer journey map which basically helps customers understand what happens. It did not just help us understand what happens at the customer's end, the customer experience across the different touch points, but how are the employees across the different departments supporting this journey, and where is it that we need to do the necessary improvements. So some of the deep dive as we see, functional, what do I see? So this is the current as is situation. What is it I see at this point in time? The qualitative and the quantitative journey maps gives us indication about the quantitative gives up about the propensity of the data, likelihood to respond, the likelihood to buy, event data, call waiting time, call abandonment rate, etc. So it's all a lot of the big data analytics or the analytics which your different automation tools would throw up. The qualitative gives you a lot of attitudinal data, the brand's perceptions, the customer value, the needs, the sentiment, the complaints, or the challenges or the issues that they have voiced, comments that they have made on the social media posts, the ratings and reviews that they have shared with us based on their experience with the brand. And the impact is basically what is it that should be changing, where is it, what is the experience that we want to give vis-a-vis what is being currently offered. So this helps us to further deep dive and understand the customer better. A few minutes back I had shared about a day in life of a customer. This is something each one of us can relate to. In the era of demonetization in India, we're seeing a lot of these mobile wallets, payment banks, and all of us have slowly started getting conversant to using mobile apps for doing a lot of our financial transactions. So this basically shows the journey of a mobile user right from the time the person leaves home to go to work and reaches work, pays a bill which was overdue, reimburses a colleague for some loan that I had borrowed, purchases a camera, say for a daughter's birthday, buys a movie ticket, and because the person had ended up giving his car for servicing, takes a cab to go to the garage, pays the garage, and so on. So what we see is today, if I was a payment service provider, for me, this is a very important kind of a journey map that I need to draw, because this helps me decide which are the kind of partners I need to be looking out for based on the journeys my end customer, the person who's going to be using my app, is going to make, so that it makes sense and they keep coming back using to use the app for making mobile payments. So this is an example of a journey map which I'm sure all of you can relate to. I mean, if you just do a quick Google, it would throw up a lot of different maps. So yes, the complexity depends on whether you've done a mix of qualitative, quantitative, used some research in terms of ethnographic data, or other kind of surveys that you would have done, and this determines what is the output that you're looking at from this whole exercise that you're trying to do. And as we spoke a few minutes back, I also just thought I'll share a brief overview about what this blueprinting is all about. So blueprinting, so you see the customer experience, basically, the smileys, which are whether the customer is happy or neutral or unhappy with the experience they've had at a particular touch point. And basically we're talking about the supporting the building blocks are you could consider them as different people in the different departments and their interrelationships, and where somewhere there is a challenge, and it gives you a holistic viewpoint as to where there are issues that you need to work on, possibly to prioritize, so that your backstage or behind the scene where we see that there is some discrepancy could get avoided. And it gives you that end-to-end surface to core view of how your business is delivered and how it acts in service on a daily basis. So, any questions till now before I continue? Hello? Yes, Ramon, I see you typing something, so I'll just wait a minute for you to type. Okay, the organization part. Thanks, Ramon. So basically what I was talking about, Ramon, out here is blueprinting helps you see the experience a customer has with your service from a holistic viewpoint. So at the back end, basically the organization has two views. So one view is what a customer gets to see on a daily basis. It could be your sales team, your call center, your reception, or maybe some amount of some people in the marketing team. But there's also a back end which supports them, which is the operations, the finance, the IT. Now the building blocks that you're seeing out here in the image is basically, if you could take it as different departments and different teams working together to deliver that experience at that particular touch point. And if there is a gap, you'll see those red blocks which are out there, or the orange ones which are out there. Basically what it tries to represent is there's something wrong out there. There's something that needs to be fixed, because you're not able to give a consistent experience because of something is amiss out there. So is it clear now? Thanks. So as we said, basically customer journey map represents the perception, the current state, the current reality, the pure perception about what it could be. Because often this is where we get wrong. You might start with creating a perception about your current know-how about what the customer journey could be, but you'd be surprised with the reality, because it might give you a completely different picture. An ideal is a future state, because everyone is in the process of trying to enhance the customer experience and is trying to go to the next level. So it's all about what is it that you can do to be future ready and take your company to the next level. So that's what a journey map is all about. So customer journey map is also not few things. It's very important, while we have discussed what a customer journey map is, to try and understand what it is not. See, often companies end up making a mistake that one size fits all. They'll say, okay, I have a product and I'll just create one single map. But for all you know, you have 8 different customer segments for that particular product line. And the way you position that product, the needs of the customer and their usage could vary drastically. So there's nothing called a one size fits all when you're talking about a customer journey map. Yes, you definitely pick up the most critical segments which are your cash cows to start with, because you want to give them that exceptional experience, and then gradually include the rest of the customers in the mix and try and see how can you start shifting them to that cash cow. Because all you know, maybe you're not providing them that experience that they're looking for, and that's the reason they have not yet shifted to the cash cow segment. It's not a one-time project. It's not something that you just do it and then forget about it as an exercise. It's something that you have to keep updating on a regular basis, if not on a half-yearly basis, but at least on an annual basis. You should be relooking at the map and see where are the course corrections that you need to do. Though the more frequent it is, the better for the organization. But yes, there's always a bandwidth constraint, and there could be a lot of projects that could be going on. So yes, it's important that you keep this into account. Customer journey maps are not those perception about what you feel is right or wrong. It's about what the customer feels is right or wrong with your brand. So it always needs to have that customer's perspective and a outside-in perspective, without which the customer journey map exercise is of no use. You know, in the digital era, everyone has this misnomer, everything is digital and human beings are not required. It's just a mobile, or it's a website, it's a chat, or it's a smartwatch app, kiosk. Believe me, there are a lot of personal one-on-one interactions, and there's a lot of back-end communication that happens. So it's just not the web behavior. You also need to try and understand the interactions with the humans, and what the customer feels is very important, because they are human beings at the end of the day. They are not machines. So it's very important that you just don't try and gauge their needs and perception about your brand based on their web behavior. And it's just not supposed to be a tick mark exercise. Just do it for the sake of doing it because you've been told. And you can't have a customer journey map for every department. Say, okay, I'm marketing department and this is my customer's view and this is what my customer journey map is all about. And it shouldn't be viewed as static. As I said, it's not a one-time project. It's just the beginning for the organization. So it's something that keeps evolving. And as your product matures, as your customers mature based on their interactions with you, you'll see that their need also changes. And you'll have to come up with new product enhancement, new offerings. Your competitors could have come up with something else. So it's something that is evolving on a regular basis. So any questions before I continue further? Well, I don't see any questions coming up, so time for another quick poll. So yes, I would request you guys to answer the poll before we move on to the next section. Well, thanks for sharing your feedback. There's someone who had shared, who had opted for the answer true. So I'd be inquisitive to try and understand what makes you believe that customers believe that brands understand them. So if you share why was this answer chosen, it would help. Well, I see Snehal typing something, so we'll just wait to give her a few minutes to write. Because the brands are made on the customer requirement, and customer choose only what they want. Uh, so how many would agree to what Snehal is saying? Have a quick debate, on this topic, because it's important that we get this right before we move on. So thanks for sharing a week. So if you could also share as to why don't you agree with it, and if you could have views from Ivan, Gayatri, Ramon also, because I'm sure the others, the rest of you have opted for false. So it would kind of help so that we collectively understand which is the right answer and why. Well, I see both that Snehal and Avik are sharing their thoughts. I hope the others too would share. Okay, I have Ramon shared already. I want to change my laptop and no one is having a model with the specification I need at the end. I will have to buy one from the available. Excellent example, Ramon. So while we have Snehal and Avik sharing their thoughts, okay, I see that Snehal has written something. Updation always happen. Maybe that is the reason you're facing this problem. But when you first purchased it, it was what you wish. Still, this is a very tricky answer, but the answer is basically the right answer is false. We believe and often we do create something in the beginning, but as we say, there are different customer segments. It could be a primary customer segment might still feel that you may feel that you are meeting most of their requirements, but there are also always these secondary segments that get created for your product line, and there is something which is always amiss that we have not captured. So yes, we do not fully understand the requirement, and we could always go for a separate offline conversation, which could last much longer to try and understand. Yes, I also have a week sharing. For example, Uber created not a travel model, but a travel experience model. So Snehal, I hope you're in sync with what Ramon, Avik, me shared. Okay, Avik also has Apple brought disruption in a similar manner with iPods. So the next session that we are moving on to in our agenda is how to get started to develop your own journey. So all of you must be pretty excited. So let me give you the basic ingredients you need for winning your customer journey map. The different kind of actors you could have. We've been talking about shaping customers in the digital era. And for a brand, the customer is not the typical customer, the client, the one who pays us the money. But it's also the employees who provide the experience to the customer and who ensure that customers keep coming back, and our stakeholders, our business partners, who are also jointly responsible for our success. So you could create a journey map for any one of them to meet their requirements. It also takes into account the time frame that you have and where are you in the journey. Is it you've already done several journey maps and you're just wanting to enhance a particular section of the journey map, or you're starting afresh? Will also determine the time you require to work on this project. And of course, there's nothing called an end to it. It's an ongoing activity. The different components that is required to conduct a successful journey map, end-to-end, full-blown map. You need to do a lot of research, to try and understand the customer, uh, uh, in totality. A very simple example out here in terms of research. Uh, there was a time when uh, someone in my family was an asthma patient, and the person had allergies and had to get medication. Injections used to come in from Delhi, and they would have to deal with ice packing. And often, this person traveled extensive, and the courier would arrive and just lie there for several days. The efficacy of that medication was lost. Plus, while traveling, the person always had to carry ice so that the medication could be refrigerated. A lot of research and feedback from the consumers, the brand finally started shipping it out in a format where the customers could inject it themselves. They still had to carry the ice packing, but at least they didn't have to hunt around a doctor or go to a hospital to try and figure out how they could get injected with this anti-allergic drug to get them out of this allergen problem. So that's the kind of research, the ethnographic research to get into the groove of trying to understand with your customer that one could do. Uh, Basically, the whole customer experience life cycle that we are talking about, and where is you are at the stage you are in your journey at a given time. The emotion the customer uh, has, the feelings that they have when they experience your brand at a given point in time, the different touch points, the physical and digital touch points. It could be web, a chat with your sales executive uh, while waiting at your reception, or a kiosk, anywhere where they're trying to interact with your brand, the different channels which you have at disposal to interact with them, the different moments of truth for them which makes them decide whether they want to continue the relationship with your brand or not, the different interactions you keep having with them, and the feedback that they provide and your ability to act on it. So all these are the different components that goes about in adding a customer journey map. So now how do you actually go about? So the first and foremost is, the management would say, great, you are wanting to embark on a mapping exercise, you've given me the high level picture, but what is my ROI? So it's very important that you define the scope of what this journey map intends to achieve at the end. When you have the first map out with you, get an executive sponsor, because it will cost you money, time. You need resources made available to you to uh, do the needful. You also need the participation from your different internal stakeholders. It's not an activity that just a marketing or a customer experience team can handle. You need the uh, different stakeholders to also participate with their views and what they need to do to improve the customer's journey. Your initial assumptions and a hypothesis. So basically, you will have to either say that you were correct or it gets negated based on your findings. And inventory of the existing customer research and data. So if you already have invested in big data, then you already would have a lot of analytics available with you. So these help you to define the scope and your objectives, basically. So to gather additional insights where the missing gaps are there, you basically conduct a lot of internal interviews, workshops. You also look at your customer lifecycle framework, look at the different stages, say awareness, onboarding, engagement, look at the interactions within those stages and what is happening. You can also do a lot of customer interviews, one-on-one interviews, focus group interviews, surveys to get additional insights about your customer. So once you gather these insights, it's important for you to try and analyze and make sense of what it is. So you basically start looking at the key topics or themes that are emerging from these insights. What are the wants, needs, expectations, and concerns? What is it that you're able to fulfill, and what are those unmet needs that you're yet to address? You also get to understand a little more in details about the sentiment and emotion of the customers. You also get to try and understand the different friction points in the journey that exists, which you need to work on. And what are the behavioral drivers and what are the root causes for that behavior which the customer is exhibiting at any given time. So once you have this analysis, you start mapping the journey based on the stages of the interaction or activities, needs, emotions, expectations, etc. You also try and identify the pain points and the high points, those high fives when the customer is absolutely thrilled with your brand. The moment of truth, that make or break point where the customer says whether I continue with this brand or not. And here you actually also use to make the map more powerful, the comments as is made by the customers. So no changing or tweaking the English to cut down, the text, but you just use the customer verbatim comments as is to enhance the power of the customer map so that everyone understands why the customer is either frustrated or extremely thrilled, and what is it that we need to keep doing to ensure that we give that wow moment to the customer. So once you map the journey, you need to basically identify the potential improvement, align the listening points, metrics, where you need to work on those closed loop processes to, refine and fine tune the gaps, identify and work on the improvement opportunities. And it's also very important that you socialize the results within your organizations so that every employee in the organization is aware about what this exercise looks like. So what I'm doing is just sharing one of the templates. This is not the template, but there are many, many more such templates that we have depending on the nature of the map that you want to do, which basically helps you capture the information that we have just spoken about. So any questions before I continue? So, I don't see any questions coming up, so I move on. So this slide basically tries to give in a little more example about it. So we've just taken the life cycle of a software as a service solution provider. So as we said, a life cycle has many journeys internally, a customer life cycle. So there is a consider stage, there's a buy, there's onboarding, engage, enhance, support, renew, repurchase. So and at each journey, there are those moment of truths that decides whether the customer, what the customer should be saying about the experience that they are having at that particular stage that moves them on. So in this journey map, we have tried to identify those engagement signals that would help the SaaS service provider understand whether the customer is on track or there is something amiss and they'll have to relook at. Because for a SaaS solution provider, it is renewal every year or every month or whatever is the criteria that they have, or every quarter. So depending on the plans that they have set up for their customers. And we've just picked up two moments. So one is the onboarding moment. So out there we have said that one of the sample moments is flexibility to self-manage their own account. So the engagement triggers out here, typically the green one, which is all good, is when there's a healthy usage and right from the day of onboarding the customer is excited, asking a lot of questions, configuring the system, and doing whatever a person in the onboarding stage would be doing, basically setting up the system for using, for doing whatever work they intend to do with the platform. But yes, there's a concern if you realize that it's 30 days down the line and the usage is not very high. And you know there is a risk the customer is definitely not going to renew after 90 days if the person barely comes to the portal or is done any transaction whatsoever on the portal. So these are the engagement signals that gives you insights on what is happening in this customer's journey. And based on that, you'll decide what is the communication or how will you interact with the customer to try and see if you can get them back to the brand, or what is it is preventing them from actually coming and trying to use your product. A similar example at the engage stage, where we said the sample moment is easy access to training and delivered the way I want. So basically the person says, okay, I'm new to a portal, but I would like to learn at my own pace how to use the product. So again, the green signal, everything is all good when you see that all the features and functionality are being optimally utilized. There's a little concern if it's being moderately used and absolutely untouched. Yes, you definitely know the person is not going to renew and you're going to lose that customer. So yes, this is the kind of power of the journey maps that it helps you. And from there, you could do a lot many more in terms of designing your communications or the way you would have to interact, or relook at your feature functionality, or really try and understand what is it that is going wrong with your product that customers are not coming back. So that's the objective that you would be setting in based on these insights that you would have while designing your journey maps. So before I move on into the next session, we'll again have a quick poll. So yes, it's up. So I would forward responses, please. Well, my job is easy. Yes, you got it right. Most of the customers that we lose is because of the bad experience that they have with our brand at any given time. So we've mapped the exercise. We've got a brief hang of what is it that we need to do, what is it that we require. So before I get on into what are all the things that we need to be doing, just a quick reiteration that while you create these maps, you may get stuck up in the middle, because if you don't have any clear outcomes, what is it that you want to achieve? You've misunderstood the methodology. As I said, there are different types of journey maps, and depending on your intent, depending on your need, depending on what is the objective you're trying to achieve, you need to decide which is the map that you need to choose. If you ignore the emotions and feeling and just become a data-driven company, you say, okay, I have invested extensively in analytics and big data platform, so I don't care about human feelings and emotions, and you don't take into the human behavioral data from a non-data point of view, we're going to be in trouble. If it is just seen as a deliverable, a tick box, and if the scope is too large or too small, so when you're beginning, you shouldn't start with something too large, because people in the team are not used to creating journey maps. They're still getting used to how do they create it, and how do they collect the data, how do they analyze, interpret, and post that, how do they act on it, and if there's no user adoption. So it's very important to keep in mind that the best practices are taken into consideration when you're designing your journey map. So as you've said, when you're trying to take the next steps, it's very important that you triage all the top issues that you have in hand, bucket them under different relevant headings, prioritize, and this prioritization is something that is not just done by the senior management, but it is done by every employee across the different across the different departments who is responsible for ensuring that wow moment of truth at that particular touch point. So everyone, it's a collective prioritization because everyone now understands what the customer wants or needs, or what is it that we want to provide to the customer, uh, and uh, and work on that. So at this stage, often you also use a lot of design thinking, uh, techniques to help you with these exercises out here. You also review the customer experience in detail and look at those areas where by making that small change, it could be a very small innovation, but which could delight the customer. One such example was, when IndusInd Bank came up with this feature wherein you could decide the currency note that you want to withdraw from the ATM. I mean, all of us, we know that the ATMs used to start dishing out, and now with the present ATMs dishing out those 2000 rupee notes often, and we struggling to try and figure out how can I get change for that currency. So it's very important to, if someone comes up with something like this, then they've automatically won their customer just because of the small innovation that they have brought in. And the whole journey map being shared with all the colleagues so that they understand what it is all about. And this is not enough. It's very important that it becomes a way of work in your life, in your work life. So after the first journey mapping exercise that you've done, it shouldn't be seen as something new that the organization is trying out for the first time. It should become a part and parcel the way you work in your organization. So it's very important for you to identify process owners at every stage and touch point who would be responsible for that experience. It's important that every employee is aware of their roles and responsibilities and the bit that they need to do. It's also important that people are trained because till the time people are not aware of what is it that they are supposed to do, we always will have a challenge. It's also important to try and measure the touch point, and bring in that performance, the ROI aspect, and the additional detail you missed out in the first phase, and you may want to consider the second phase. And it's always a good way to map all your upcoming product launches with your desired future state customer journey maps, so that it helps you genuinely create that unique value proposition or a distinction for what your brand stands for. So to bring to bring it to life, you basically could use it to do personalization. Personalization today is not saying dear Vidya so and so, but it's genuinely trying to understand, Vidya, you required this, and I have a mail or a communication from my brand right at that time because they've understood what is my need at that point in time, which helps you do proactive communication with your customers because you've identified that possibly a customer is a little upset for whatever happened. Maybe the interaction with the call center did not go well. So instead of doing a post-mortem, you're trying to do a proactive communication that helps better the relationship. Always keeping in mind the omni-channel context and decide how the communication needs to be delivered based on the channel. And it's very important for you to also consider the tiered service because you've done your customer segmentation, you know what kind of service levels you want to provide, because at the end of the day, we also have to be realistic and we have to balance between the experience and the money that we spend. Yes, it's important. it's a given that you provide an excellent experience, customers will keep coming back for more. But there's always that fine-tuned balancing that you have to do, because the service also costs an X amount of money. So yes, when you're bringing your journey maps to life, it's very important for you to take in your tiered services. So it's just something that we put up to say that you don't have a choice as a brand, irrespective of whether you're a B2B or a B2C organization. It's important that you act before your competition does. So we're just seeing a shop having a sale up, everything is on, and the shopkeeper wondering why no one is coming in. Where in a fixed price store, still getting a lot of customers walking in, so they must be doing something right. So they must have got that magic formula right to keep ensuring that the customers keep coming back for more. So thank you very much. I'm open to questions.